Gavin Schmidt likened climate scientists to forensics team of the CSI. Another metaphor that applies is that of a doctor. And studying global warming is like taking the Earth's temperature. We've seen that it's rising, and also we have diagnosed the dominant cause of this fever is the heat-trapping emissions from human activity. So far, temperature's gone up about over a degree, 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit. That doesn't mean much to our everyday lives, but it means everything to the Earth. All of us have experienced 100-degree temperature, 102-degree temperature, but we've survived. Now, the body cannot withstand 107-degree Fahrenheit temperature. That's about an 8-degree jump above the average body temperature. Now, when it comes to the Earth is much more fragile than the body when it comes to temperature. What we see is that a 7-degree increase in global warming would mean that we would accelerate, we would intensify the water cycle. That means the wet places will get wetter and the dry places will get drier. It means we put at risk species. They're going to go extinct. It means that the summer Arctic ice is at risk of disappearing. It also means that a 7 degrees rise in temperature would commit us to substantial sea level rise from melting of the Greenland ice sheet. The Earth's fever is only getting worse, and the animals and the plants that are out there struggling are already giving us the early warning signs. We've seen them shift their habitats, and we've seen them struggle as they cope with the shifting of the warm periods and the cold periods of the seasons. Furthermore, there's already heat in the pipeline as the oceans play catch-up to the atmosphere loading that we've put these heat-trapping gases in our atmosphere. As the oceans warm up, the temperatures will commit us to further warming. We're locking in another degree of Fahrenheit of warming. That's heat in the pipeline. Do we really want to lock in even further warming? We're going to keep studying the symptoms as scientists, but the diagnosis is very clear, and the course of treatment is even clearer. Choosing not to fight global warming is as foolhardy as ignoring the early warning signs of a fever of a young child and not attending to that. So what is the course of treatment, and can we really do something about it? The answer is yes, but we have to act soon. We have to start tackling this problem on all fronts. Our landfills, farms, and livestock are emitting methane and other heat-trapping gases. Our fossil fuels, our oil, our coal, our gas, cutting down forests are committing us to ever-increasing levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. In fact, these levels of heat-trapping gases are at the highest level than they've ever been for hundreds of thousands of years. It's not natural. Since the dawn of the industrial age, humans have been digging up carbon and putting it on fire and using it as energy. Now, the Earth doesn't normally set on fire million-year-old stores of carbon. It's unnatural. It's not a normal thing. What we're doing by using these fossil fuels is overwhelming the Earth's capacity to clean up and absorb that carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The Earth takes hundreds of years to get rid of carbon dioxide. And what's most important is that this fact is very important to help us decide when we have to start acting about global warming. While some of the worst effects might not be felt for decades or centuries, the actions we take today will determine how much carbon dioxide will be in the atmosphere, how much global warming we are locking in, how bad are the effects going to be for ourselves and for our children and grandchildren. That's what's really important. We probably have a decade to institute meaningful solutions. Why 10 years? That's because the decisions we make today have a long-term commitment. If we do not reform our agricultural practices, heat-trapping gases will continue to accumulate in the atmosphere. However, if we were to capture methane from our landfills, not only would we stop those emissions from going to the atmosphere, we would also be creating energy at the same time. If we make a building in the old way, then we would be polluting for decades to come. However, if we were to build with renewable energy sources, new, cleaner buildings, then that means that we have eliminated that fossil fuel loading of emissions to the atmosphere. If we construct coal power plants the conventional way, that means we are substantially increasing the heat trapping emissions in our atmosphere for 50 years, and they will linger for many, many more years. However, if we invest in research and technology to capture carbon from those coal plants, this would be welcome news to all the nations of the world that have deep, vast coal reserves. Increasing energy efficiency and harnessing renewable energy from the sun, from the wind, from other sources will help us along this path. If our cities continue to grow, that increase the commuting distance of our citizens, that means we are committing ourselves to burning more fuel. There are better ways. With profitable solutions at hand, it's irresponsible to postpone action. Right now, we could put nations on target to reducing emissions. If we start now, we reduce each year. However, if we delay, that means that the cuts that we have to make to meet our goals will become steeper and steeper, and we may not even be able to meet those demands. They will become too hard for us to reach. It's the equivalent to the person with a credit card who can no longer pay off the minimum payments. They cannot reach their goals. Right now, we're on a spending spree with our heat-trapping emissions. We're building up the future costs of global warming. And when this bill comes, when the bill for our emissions today comes due in the not too distant future, choosing not to fight global warming is about as irresponsible as not making payments on a high-interest credit card. With such high stakes, common sense requires that we act now, and while we still have options. Within the next decade, we will continue to determine whether or not our children and grandchildren look back at this time and decide whether we failed them. Or will they look back at this time and see that we built a better planet for ourselves and for them? We have a chance to avert this crisis and to assure a safer planet. And if we wait for the children to solve this problem, it's too late. The risks are too big. But before we act on global warming, we must recognize it for the crisis that it is. Vote no.
Very much.